Joining me now is the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians, Linda Burney. Thanks very much for your time. I know there's a lot of adversarial in politics, but it's a good result. I think you'd agree. Has it been well handled by the government? Are you pleased with everything that's happened here?
There's an enormous sense of relief today right across Australia, particularly in Indigenous Australia, that the flag has been set free. There is a lot of questions still to be answered about what the arrangements actually are, particularly for the private licensees involved.
So someone making merchandise, for example?
Yeah, well, the group that had the commercial licence to the flag were obviously part of the negotiations, and I think there are questions to be asked around that, but mostly it's relief and congratulations, particularly to the people who have mounted this campaign, Clothing the Gap, Nova Peris and others.
So those details, I mean, if someone is making merchandise and then selling it, and then they would have to pay perhaps a portion of that to the government. We've heard about the deal, the money would effectively go to help Indigenous Australians. So if that's the arrangement, is that a sort of positive outcome?
I think that what the arrangements are in relation to Harold Thomas, and an enormous amount of respect goes to Harold. The flag is 51 years old this year, and he says he wants it to be a unifying symbol in Australia. And I think that's very, very worthy. The commercial arrangements I'm not familiar with, Tom, so I really can't comment on them.
All right, as you say, perhaps we'll hear some more of that detail. It's January 25, tomorrow's January 26. I'm sure you've clocked that. It's Australia Day.
Slightly.
Does our National Day need to be changed, in your view?
I truly believe that if we were making the decision today about a National Day, it would not be the 26th of January. It's a complex day and it represents different things to different people. Of course, the First Nations Australians, particularly the Gadigal people, it was when Arthur Phillip raised the flag and declared the colony of New South Wales. I want tomorrow to be spent two ways. Of course, celebrating what Australia is about in 2022, but we need to also do it in the spirit of truth-telling, and that is understanding and reflecting that the day is a very difficult day, particularly for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders.
And so that's how you and plenty of other Indigenous Australians have chosen to, I suppose, take what we have, which is Australia Day, and make it into a day where you can do both. But what is your view? You just said there, if we could have the choice, you don't think we'd choose January 26. Is that effectively saying the day should be changed? It's just a way of figuring out how to do so?
I'm a pragmatist, I'm a realist, and I don't think the date is going to change anytime soon. So it really is a question of how you spend the day. There are thousands of suggestions. I get lots of them every year on what a more appropriate day would be. But at the end of the day, the 26th is Australia Day. But for heaven's sake, I am saying to people, remind yourselves of the incredible story of First Nations in Australia and reflect on what the truth is about our national story.
And when you say you're a pragmatist, does that mean you would like to change the day, but there's not the political landscape to do it right now? Because you mentioned for now.
I am a pragmatist, and I don't have a view at all, Tom, about what a more appropriate day might be. But what I do know about the 26th is that it's called Survival Day, Invasion Day, Australia Day. So it depends on your perspective. But whatever the outcomes of this discussion are, it's an important discussion for Australia to have in terms of the history of this country. And it should be a discussion that is unifying, not one that divides.
And obviously that discussion has changed a lot, and it feels as though perhaps it's been growing in recent years, a push to at least reconsider the day. Is it something you think will happen eventually, that a majority of Australians will ultimately want to change the day, and it will happen?
What I've noticed is particularly young people understand that it's a day that is complex and divisive. And it seems to me that when you think about Australia Day, and most people don't know this, they see it as a public holiday, basically. What we do know about Australia Day is that it was only proclaimed in the 90s, something like 30 years ago.
As a public holiday?
As the national day for the whole country. So Australia Day and the date does change, but what I'm saying very clearly is make sure that tomorrow we celebrate the good things about our country, but we do it in the spirit of truth-telling.
Right. So in terms of your view, have you had conversations within your own party for the party's position to shift towards a change?
No, the party's position is quite clear.
But have you tried to...
No, I haven't.
Okay. Do you have a private view on this?
I understand what you want me to say, but my position is that it is the National Day. I'm on the public record about the day, but it is a day where we are saying, please spend part of it in reflection.
And is your position dictated by the fact that you're in shadow cabinet?
No, it's not. I am a pragmatist, I'm a realist, and I think my views about the day have matured in the last few years.
Is it just following this? I mean, you've mentioned younger Australians, so do you see this as generational? That this will one day be something that there's a groundswell for, and that will be the time to come up with an alternative day and at that point push this harder, but there's no point in doing it now and perhaps damaging the chance of it ever happening?
There are so many pressing issues in Indigenous Australia, not the least being the inequities experienced through housing, imprisonment, age of consent, a whole range of issues which have to be dealt with.
So are the priorities more important, essentially?
I'm not saying that they're more important. I think Australia Day symbolically is incredibly important, and it is the national day. But there are pressing issues, not the least being a voice to the Parliament, that I think take priority at this time.
Which is another issue that will get a lot of attention, I know, ahead of the election, and we'll talk again about that. Linda Burney, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.